What's up, everybody? This is Mr. Howard, and we are back with Raw Talk. This is the Extreme Rules Edition, 2016, of course. And today we're going to be talking about what happened at Extreme Rules this past Sunday, and then we're going to jump into what happened the following night on Raw. So this was the first match that they had. I think it was on the pre-show for Extreme Rules, and we've seen it many times in the past weeks on SmackDown and Raw, and kind of everywhere there is wrestling. But Baron Corbin and Dolph Ziggler squared off again, and it was a little underwhelming to say the least. I would say that uh, they probably would have been better off if Baron Corbin just kind of went in and like destroyed Dolph Ziggler in an Extreme Rules match. But it was, I mean, they did put it on the pre-show, so I suppose that kind of shows how much they cared about the feud. I believe it was just a no disqualification match, but the only real sign of a no disqualification or the of anyone breaking any rules was I think a low blow that happened towards the end of the match. But I mean, it it really wasn't it wasn't that great of a match, I'd say. I mean, they're definitely trying to keep Baron Corbin busy, and I can only assume that they're gonna set him up with maybe John Cena, or maybe I don't know, like a returning Randy Orton would be cool. I mean, there's only so many things you can do with him, but I personally would like to see him, you know, get into a feud with John Cena, because that would definitely lift his career up. Even if Super Cena squashed him, as long as he made Corbin look good throughout the match, you can still lose to Cena and get a boost in your career, I think we're all kind of tired of the Baron Corbin Dolph Ziggler feud, and unfortunately, as we'll get to later, Ziggler and Corbin seem to be free for the next pay per view, and I'm hoping that they find something else for the two of them to do, but you know, we're just gonna have to wait and see. I mean, I've liked Corbin as a performer since I first saw him in NXT, and he could use some work on the mic. I mean, I think that's the reason they kept him in NXT for so long. But there's also definitely an aspect of entertainment that he seems to be grasping slowly but surely. I mean, he definitely knows how to wrestle. I mean, he has some really cool moves, and maybe they thought by putting him up against someone like Ziggler, it would kind of, I don't know, train his like technical wrestling ability or something along those lines. Uh, it's been working all right. I mean, I would give this match probably, I don't know, like a 2.5 out of 5 or something. I mean, it really wasn't anything special, but the hope is that they move Corbin into something, move him onto bigger and better things. And unfortunately for Ziggler, it doesn't seem like they have a lot for him. But maybe they'll find something. Who knows? All right, so into the next match, because this was something that we saw a lot of over the past couple weeks as well. We all know what the main event was. That was Reigns and AJ Styles. But the kind of lesser talked about feud was that of the Usos and the club. So I wasn't sure where they were going with this feud. I kind of assumed that they were gonna make the club look strong, and I think by doing that, it leaves the door open for the club to maybe go on to maybe challenge for the tag titles in the future. Maybe they can get into singles matches and maybe get popular that way. I mean, the Usos have been kind of dwindling for a while now, unfortunately, and pairing them up with Reigns definitely, definitely did not help their like favorability. I mean, obviously the little kids that like Reigns a whole lot are gonna like the Usos, and I liked the Usos for a long time too. Hell, I still kind of liked Reigns for a while, but I mean, there really just isn't much for them to do. So going back to the match, it was a fairly quick match. I was actually kind of surprised at how quick it went. I don't have the timestamp on it, but basically, um, the club just kind of beat the crap out of them, and I think one of the Usos got hit with the ring bell, and then I believe Anderson hit him with or they hit him with the Magic Killer. I think is what the finisher is called. Um, I'm not really sure if there's anything left for the Usos to do in this feud, but I mean, I don't know. We'll see. They just got completely dominated in that match. So Gallows and Anderson win. They go over and they look strong. I'm assuming that's for a reason. But it it was a decent match. I'll give it like a 3 out of 5. Moving on, we have as you can see here the United States Championship, and this the whole United States like title scene has been very lacking in story. Oh, excuse me. I don't really know if they plan on bringing Cena back and putting him into the U.S. title scene again. But all I know is that the last time the U.S. belt had any meaning and had any, flair or was entertaining at all was when Cena was champ. And I mean, I think that's really the best way to go about it. I mean, when Del Rio came back and beat Cena, I was so angry because I don't think there's a wrestler I hate more, at least not currently, I hate more than Del Rio. And, I understand a lot of people are tired of Super Cena, but, he was the United States champion, not the world champion. And I think by defending the belt, every week on Raw, it gave me something specific to look forward to every Monday. And then it really made the matches mean something when Cena was the champ, because the just defending the belt weekly is something to be you know talked about. And I don't know, I think that having John Cena in the US title picture would probably be the best scenario. And all right, so we're going to talk about this United States title match because they kind of threw Rusev into the U.S. title picture very quickly. Um, Kalisto had been feuding with Del Rio, and then he beat Del Rio, and then he just kind of was put into some tag matches with Sin Cara, and he didn't really have any feuds. And then all of a sudden, Rusev wins the Battle Royal I think they had on Raw, becomes the number one contender, and has just kind of been like manhandling both Sin Cara and Kalisto over the past couple weeks. And it's kind of hard to believe that, Kalisto could beat Rusev in like a one-on-one match. Now, granted, this is Extreme Rules. I think there was a no disqualification stipulation here. I almost expected Sin Cara to come out and help out Kalisto, but I guess he was injured, or kayfabe injured. But I don't know. I think by having Kalisto as the champ for so long, and by not having really any like storyline to put him in, kind of devalued the title. And maybe the idea here is, by putting Rusev back into the picture, by giving him the belt, maybe he will spice things up a little bit. Like I said, I would not be surprised if we had Rusev and a John Cena U.S. title feud once again, because Cena is due back next Monday. Rusev, as we found out, uh, did end up going on to beat Kalisto in this match. He won the U.S. title pretty viciously, and it's hard to see Kalisto coming back and winning it. Whether we're talking about, could he literally beat a guy the size of Rusev, or if we're just talking about storyline, I don't think. I don't think that Kalisto will win the U.S. title again, at least not anytime soon. So I'm gonna give this match. I don't know. Give it a 3 out of 5, I suppose. I mean, it was good because Kalisto is a tremendous in-ring performer, right? And he definitely makes every match he's in entertaining, makes it fun to watch, puts you, gives you like, or puts a little bit of suspense into like what's gonna happen next. I don't know if Rusev can necessarily bring that to the table, but at the same time, he is a brute. He's just a different character, and obviously he's been U.S. champ before. They know how to write the storyline for him. So this match was all right. I don't know if we're gonna see these two fight very much longer. I guess we'll find out next Monday night on Raw when Cena comes back, because depending on what they plan for Cena is probably going to tell us where the U.S. title feud is going, and where a couple other storylines are heading as well. So Rusev is the new U.S. champion, and well, things have been worse. Things have been worse. I'm kind of glad that Del Rio's out of the picture. I know some people like him, but I just cannot stand Del Rio. So hopefully we don't see much more of him in the U.S. title picture. But, what are you going to do? Alright, so we are going to move on. The next match on the card was for the tag titles. And if we look at the feuds or the matches leading up to this, it definitely seemed as if Enzo and Cass were primed to go in and face the New Day for the tag titles. But of course, Enzo got injured, and it's a tough predicament. So I guess long story short, the Vaudevillains get put in there, and they made them look pretty strong going into the pay-per-view. But as soon as they got into the actual like wrestling match at Extreme Rules, okay, it was pretty clear, at least to me, that they weren't ready for world like tag team championship gold. And it was pretty obvious that the New Day was going to win one way or another, whether it was by using the third man, or whether it was by just fair game. I was surprised that I believe I think Woods replaced Kingston um, in the match, so it ended up being Biggie and Xavier Woods in the match, and that's always it's always nice to see them spice it up a little bit. But I was fully expecting Kofi in the match. To be fair, he did show up and take part in the match later on. I think what he basically ended up doing was getting kind of blatantly involved when the ref's back was turned, and I think it was Xavier Woods that would end up picking up the win. But this match was kind of it definitely feels like it wasn't planned, in my opinion. I mean, the whole storyline was very rushed, and I give props to the Vaudevillains. They're a new tag team coming up. They're doing they're doing a gimmick that we haven't seen before. They have different wrestling techniques, or they have different wrestling style, I guess you could say, than any other team. But they're definitely just not I don't know, ready for the spotlight. At least not on the grand stage. Maybe in NXT they were, but it's kind of obvious when you see teams like the New Day, you see teams like even the Usos, but especially teams like Enzo and Cass, where they come out, the crowd goes nuts, and you really just don't have anything bad to say about them. I would say this match was all right. I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5, and it was definitely very predictable in my opinion. I am hoping that Enzo and Cass will both be. Well, I'm hoping Enzo will be healthy enough at the next pay per view to maybe get a title match. Although it does seem as if they are feuding with the Dudleys, so I don't know if that feud is going to come to fruition before the next pay per view or after. So it's one of those things where maybe they just kind of missed each other on the timeline of the feud here. I definitely think a New Day Enzo and Cass feud would be awesome. And I mean, I've been a fan of Enzo and Cass for the longest time, so obviously I want them to win. But the New Day have definitely grown on me. I mean, I've not switched back and forth on my opinion of a tag team so much. I've never done it for any other team other than the New Day. I started out hating them, and then I liked them, and then I hated them, and then I liked them, and then I hated them, and they're kind of getting on my good side now. But it's one of those teams that you really just gotta go with the flow and see what they're gonna do next, right? All right. So next up, we had arguably one of probably the most anticipated match of the night, at least by some people. We had the Intercontinental Championship match with The Miz defending against Sami Zayn, Cesaro, and Kevin Owens. I am a huge fan of Cesaro. I am a huge fan of Sami Zayn. I am a pretty big fan of Kevin Owens. The Miz is kind of gotten a little old for my taste. Not age wise, but I've just kind of gotten tired of seeing the Miz and the same character he's had for like 6 years. Bringing Maurice in with him was definitely a good decision on their part, but it's just kind of, in my opinion, something to make him relevant again, and it really didn't even do it that well. I mean, to be honest, no one's probably looking at him when he walks down that ramp. to be honest, when he's in the ring, I don't think anyone's really paying attention to the match unless he's facing somebody like Cesaro or like Sami Zayn. And that kind of sucks because by having him as champion, it's almost not quite, but it's almost devaluing the Intercontinental Championship. We talked about the U.S. belt and how there's problems in that, but the Intercontinental Championship needs a champion that is a really good entertainer. And granted, the Miz he does a tremendous job of making us just hate him. And that's something that takes skill to do. I mean, he is a good quote unquote actor when it comes to wrestling, but he doesn't have the like wrestling technique or wrestling flair that someone like Cesaro has, where every move he does makes the crowd like ooh and ah. And the same can be said for Zayn and Owens. I mean, this was a really good match. I'm gonna give this match a 4 out of 5, or I'll give it a 4.5 out of 5, because it was a very good match. The only thing I didn't like was the ending, where the Miz did end up going on to win the match. It was just it was so infuriating because I was watching it with a couple of my buddies, and at the very beginning of the match, we're like, we will be happy, the fans will be happy, no matter what happens, as long as the Miz loses the belt. And of course, the Miz retains. Um, I think halfway through the match, we saw Cesaro put the Miz in the sharpshooter, and the Miz tapped out. But of course, Maurice was distracting the ref, so the ref didn't see it. And then when Cesaro went to complain to the ref, he ended up getting taken out by Owens. And then it looked like Owens was going to win, and the Miz breaks up the pin. Zayn and Owens go at it for a while, and I mean, that feud's never going to end. I think we need to just come to face that the Kevin Owens Sami Zayn feud is never going to end. They talked about it like they're destined to fight each other forever, but I mean, it's kind of true because they came up into the business at the same time. They went pretty much the exact same path through FCW, NXT, and now the WWE, and they moved almost at the same exact time. And they're both tremendous athletes. They have like kind of opposite characters. It'll be interesting to see if someday Owens turns face and Zayn turns heel. That'd be a really cool, interesting feud I'd like to see. But it's until then. I mean, we should get used to seeing them fight a lot. I don't have a problem with that. Particularly, I mean, some people might just because repetition, I suppose. But Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, I have to give them props. They have done stuff that other wrestlers either never have or don't do often. I remember Kevin Owens. I think he fought Finn Balor in a ladder match or something on one of the NXT Takeover shows. Brutal, bloody, bone-shattering match. And then he went out to face, I think it was Cena the next night at a pay-per-view or something. And then he went on to Raw and faced someone else. And he's one of the hardest workers in the business. And, Sami Zayn as well. I think the whole NXT training idea was a great idea on Triple H's behalf, because it really is breeding tremendous superstars, both in the ring, on the mic, on camera, off camera, whatever it is. And just like we saw in the pay-per-view, it kind of looks like The Miz is about to steal this match. Yep. And go figure, just like the real match happened. So in the actual match, I think The Miz stole the pin on Cesaro. And it was definitely a bittersweet ending, because it was such a great match, and I don't think any of us really wanted The Miz to win. But what are you gonna do, right? I guess we'll just have to wait and see what's gonna happen, in the future. I think I don't know. It doesn't seem like the Miz is gonna be in that Money in the Bank match, so it looks like he'll probably defend the Intercontinental Championship at the next pay per view. Against who, I do not know. But why don't we move on to the next match, which a lot of people were looking forward to as well. The first ever Asylum match. I set up a cage match here between Dean Ambrose and Chris Jericho. This was definitely a feud that it was kind of expected to happen at some point. Just because I don't know, it just seems like looking back in history, there are two guys that you're like they had to have had a feud, right? They definitely do cut great promos. They have really good back and forth on the mic, and in ring stuff is really good as well. Chris Jericho is one of the all time greats. That is a given. And Dean Ambrose is an up and comer, or I guess has been an up and comer in the past, who really is kind of taking over maybe the Roddy Piper like gimmick, or he's kind of a blend of Roddy Piper and Mick Foley in my opinion. He has the character and the like anti-establishment kind of vibe that Roddy Piper had, but he also has like the hardcore, crazy, doesn't care what happens to his body as long as his opponent gets hurt kind of thing that Mick Foley had going. And as we saw in the match, they had a ton of weapons, or a ton of different ways to go at each other in this match. And I think, some people might not like violence, but then again, it was the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. I'm going to tell those people you just need to suck it up and not watch if you don't want to see it. But I love it. I definitely miss the Attitude Era. That was, the late 90s was one of my favorite times in wrestling. And I think it's good that they're bringing back at least a little bit of it. I don't think we'll ever see the full, Attitude Era come back, just because the times are a little bit different. I mean, it wouldn't probably be best for business, as the authority always says, because there are a lot of kids that watch, and even though the kids probably wouldn't mind the violence or the blood or the weapon or whatever it is, their parents probably would. And when you're a kid, unfortunately, your parents tend to have a little bit of reign over you, so that's something that they have to think about because they don't want to lose money, and I understand that. With that being said, Shane McMahon coming back, and just getting this whole new generation of NXT superstars, young talent who can put their bodies through stuff that is safe, but pretty pretty cool to watch, and pretty violent sometimes. It's We're at a point where I think the company's definitely ready for a little bit of that attitude to come back. They're not going to go full-fledged with it, but as we saw at WrestleMania with Shane jumping off the Hell in a Cell, and we saw in this match, the highlight of this match was, of course, Dean Ambrose taking out the bag of tacks, which is like a classic Mick Foley move in like every hardcore match he's ever had. And there's just those little silver tacks all over the ring. The anticipation as to who's gonna have to take it went on for a few minutes before Jericho went for a code breaker, and Ambrose basically just threw him onto the tacks. And you could almost see Jericho, like you could see him shaking. I mean, he almost went into shock. So I don't know if he's just a really good actor, but I'm assuming that shit hurts. And it's just one of those things that, they do to entertain us. And it works. I mean, it was arguably, if not the match of the night, definitely, second or tied. Because they put on a show, they put their bodies on the line, and they know how to entertain us. I love Chris Jericho. Obviously, I'm a mark and I'm a wrestling fan that gets into heels and faces, and um, I don't tend to like the bad guys, and I tend to like the good guys. So his character that he has now just obviously annoys the crap out of me. But it's also when I kind of take a step back and think about what it is he's doing. He's putting over or making Dean Ambrose look really, really good. And that's good for Ambrose's career. Not only does it keep him busy while there's other stuff going on in the world title hunt, which we'll get to, but it also like just builds up his character. It builds up the idea that he title contender in the future. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think he's going to be in the main event at next year's WrestleMania, and I think a couple other people will be too. He is just a tremendous wrestler, or a tremendous performer, I guess you could say. And he's going to be going places. I don't know how long Jericho is going to be sticking around. I don't know if this is going to be his last run, if he's going to go away part time, come back, but it's something to look forward to every time Jericho steps in the ring, and now it's also something to look forward to whenever Ambrose walks in the ring. So, great match. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. And I hope to see more of Ambrose. I hope to see more of Jericho. It'll be interesting to see if they, do anything more with, like, if they feud with each other anymore, or if they move on to other things. Is Jericho gonna come back? I don't know. He's gonna be in the next pay-per-view, but I'm not sure if how long he plans on wrestling for, because he is in a band and he is getting older, and there's a whole bunch of things. But great match overall, and I'm looking forward to the future. So now we have the Divas title match. I apologize, Charlotte is not in this game, so I don't have her for the video here. But basically, Charlotte defends the women's championship against Natalya. The stipulation was that if Ric Flair came out and interfered, or even just came out in any way, that Charlotte would have to forfeit the championship, and Natalya would just win the title. And of course, halfway through the match, Flair's music goes off. You see someone come out in a robe. First, you're kind of thinking it's Flair, but then you realize it's actually Dana Brooke. And if you don't know Dana Brooke, she has been in NXT for quite some time. She's known for tagging with Emma, and she's been a force to be reckoned with. She fought Bayley a lot. She's fought everyone here. Becky Lynch. And so basically, Dana comes out, and she's there as a distraction. And unfortunately, because this is the WWE, the distraction works, and Charlotte hooks in the figure 8 lock that she has, and well, she beats Natalya clean. And my friends and I were all kind of upset, although it's understandable how and why they did it, but it's also kind of Like, we're really just tired of, we're really just tired of Charlotte going over every single time and having none of it seem to be like by fair means. Um, I would go ahead and say that I'd give the match probably a 3 out of 5. I think Charlotte is a great performer. I think Natalia is a tremendous performer. I think we were just kind of wanting a title change. I don't know if Natalia's going to keep feuding with Charlotte. I don't know if they're going to maybe bring Paige in again. I think she's due. I think Sasha's due. Becky's due. I mean, I think I would like to see Paige. I don't know if Nikki's coming back anytime soon or if she's coming back at all. Uh, we're just gonna have to wait and see on that one. That's really not something that we can predict, but I think it's safe to say that there will probably be a feud between Dana Brooke and Charlotte at some point, and we'll talk about what happened on Raw in a little bit. But the whole match was kind of predictable, although I wasn't sure who was going to win. I just figured there was going to be some kind of interference and the distraction would lead to someone winning. Unfortunately for Natalia, that did not lean in her favor. So, with that being said, we're going to move on to the main event. And I want to, I, I want to preface this by saying it was a really good match. I did not like the ending, and a lot of people, I think most people would probably disagree with me, but basically they had Roman Reigns and AJ Styles were fighting for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. This is in case you haven't watched Extreme Rules, and I put Seth Rollins in here because AJ is not in the game, unfortunately, but I'm sure he will be this end of the year. So basically, they went back and forth. This match was tremendous. I think it was definitely it could have been a 5-star match, and a lot of people still will say it was. I disagree, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute. But so basically, we did end up seeing the club come out and attack Reigns, and of course, this led to the Usos coming out and kind of an all-out brawl breaking out, and it was predictable. It was an Extreme Rules match, so there's no disqualification. Anything goes. I was hoping that if someone won the match, it would be, you know, by fair means, and it was in the end. So basically, after everything went down, Styles just got pissed off, and he picked up a chair and just started swinging it, hitting everyone in sight. Didn't matter who it was, and towards the end of the match, he ended up going for the flying forearm, I think it is, or the phenomenal forearm, or whatever he calls it, and he gets speared by Reigns mid-air, and Reigns retains. He wins the match fair and square. So I have been one of the last people who have been a fan of Roman Reigns, and basically, I have to say, this feud kind of made me not like him, and I think that's what most people are feeling, because some people don't like Reigns for this reason or for that reason. I know most people don't like him because he's kind of took Daniel Bryan's spot, but that's another story, another discussion. I started to not like Roman Reigns because AJ Styles was just a better wrestler, and he's a quote unquote good guy. And by putting Reigns, who has a very mixed reaction, regardless of where you are, from the fans, against a huge face, like arguably the biggest face in the company, other than maybe Cena, and maybe Sami Zayn, I suppose. He basically made me not like Reigns. So I was really pulling for AJ Styles to win this match. He didn't win this match, and I was okay with it because it was a fair win, and I assumed, there would be another match in the future, whether it be the next pay-per-view, the next night on Raw, where Styles would end up winning the belt, because I think AJ Styles deserves to win the belt. So this is why I have Rollins in the match, because after the match ends, we get a nice surprise return from Seth Rollins. Now, I was excited. I'm sure there were a lot of people more excited than me, but I was still pretty excited. And I have to say that I have never been a fan of Seth Rollins when it comes to his character. I think he's a great in-ring performer. I cannot knock him on that. But every time Rollins won, I just could not stand it. I always rooted for Ambrose. I always rooted for Reigns. I always rooted for Lesnar, for Cena, for anyone who was facing Rollins, because Rollins has that kind of whiny and kind of like scared little boy heel character. And that's my least favorite kind of heel character. If I'm gonna if I'm gonna be a fan of a heel, I'm gonna be a fan of someone like Kevin Owens, someone like, I don't know, Sheamus, even Rusev, just someone who isn't like a baby in the ring, and when like someone who can handle themselves in a fight. And I think that's the best kind of heel. The I guess you could say the bully kind of a heel. Rollins is not that. He very much used the authority. He very much used every little thing he could to sneak by and win when he probably shouldn't have. But I get it. It's wrestling storylines, and that's how they write it. They think that's what's best, and it probably is. So, now that Rollins is back, I have to assume that AJ Styles is out of the title picture. That's my assumption, because he was never champion. He doesn't necessarily get the rematch that we usually see. And, I personally would have been a lot happier if AJ Styles won the belt, and when Reigns went to, invoke his rematch clause, had Rollins return then and set up a triple threat. Because that would give me some incentive to watch the match, but to also not be on Reigns' side. Now, we're going to jump to Monday Night Raw. The night starts out with Rollins coming out. The fans go nuts, of course, because he hasn't been here since November, somewhere in November. And he just is the same exact Seth Rollins. His character's that little whiny, kind of arrogant, guy who, quite frankly, I am not a fan of. So, feel free to disagree with me. But I'm upset because I thought there was a huge opportunity for the WWE to go in and to make Rollins face. Because Reigns was already on the cusp of turning heel. Like, he was so close. And, of course, the whole AJ Styles feud just pushed that over the limit. I mean, Reigns could have been heel for the past 3 months if he wanted to be, but they're not booking him that way, and I think they should. I've always been of the opinion that if the fans don't like you, then maybe you shouldn't be quote unquote the fan favorite. I mean, that's just kind of my my philosophy on that. Back in the day, if the fans didn't like you, you were a heel. If the fans liked you, you were a face. Stone Cold Steve Austin tried very hard to turn heel in the early 2000s, and the fans just weren't having it. They would still cheer for him over and over again. So we went back to being face. And I think that that's how it should be. I think the fans should deem, you know, I think the fans are usually right. And I get that whoever's in charge, whether it be Triple H, Vince McMahon, Stephanie, Shane, the team of writers that are backstage, whoever it is making these decisions, I think this feud would have been just 10 times better if Rollins was the face and Reigns was the heel, because the fans already don't like Reigns, and the fans already like Rollins. So why not just, you know, go with it? The part that I'm upset about is because they almost had me disliking Reigns, and whether they were trying to do that or not, they almost did it. And most people will say, "Well, just don't like him. He's not good on the mic. He's shouldn't be champion," and they have different reasons for that. But I am now I feel forced to like Reigns because of how much I dislike Seth Rollins, and that's not great. Like this whole world title picture, unless you put Cena or Orton or AJ Styles into it, it is just not interesting to me right now, and that's unfortunate. I'm gonna have to say that you know this feud is probably gonna go on until I don't know, Survivor Series. I mean, this is gonna go on all summer, in one way or another. I don't know if they're gonna bring Ambrose in or not, but I just feel like this is gonna be the world title picture from now on, and I don't really see an end in sight as to when they're gonna bring anyone else in. So, with that being said, we're gonna move on to what else happened on Monday Night Raw. They started doing qualifying matches for the next pay per view, which is Money in the Bank, and I think they had 5 qualifying matches. And the first one was Sheamus versus Sami Zayn. This was a pretty good match, probably mostly because of Sami Zayn, but a pretty good match nonetheless. I would say, Sheamus, he's a brute, but Sammy definitely held his own here. And I'd say one of the best parts of the match was when um, Sami Zayn basically got up and hit Sheamus with a clothesline just absolutely out of nowhere and took Sheamus out. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually knocked Sheamus out. It looked good. I'm sure it didn't, but it looked really good. And then, of course, towards the end of the match, Sami Zayn hits the haluva kick, and that was pretty abrupt as well, and pins Sheamus. So Sami Zayn becomes the first person to qualify for the Money in the Bank, which is pretty, I guess, predictable. And that's good because he's just a great performer, and we should have him in a ladder match if there is one. The New Day then came out after that match. They were celebrating the 1200th episode of Raw. They brought out a birthday cake. It was all happy-go-lucky. The Social Outcasts decide to come out. They attack the New Day, and this leads to an impromptu match between the two teams. The New Day pretty much destroy the Outcasts, like the jobbers that they are. And then I think they take the birthday cake for Raw and smash it right into Heath Slater's face, which gave everybody a good laugh. And, then we kind of went to commercial break, and that was that. Um, the second qualifying match for the Money in the Bank was The Miz versus Cesaro. I was I was gonna be really angry if the Miz won this, because not only did he win last night, but he's the Intercontinental Champion. He doesn't need a briefcase that gives him access to the world title. I would be so upset if he got into that match. But luckily, Cesaro made sure that didn't happen. Cesaro hit a great flying crossbody off the top rope. He hit like 100 uppercuts like he always does, and eventually hit the neutralizer for the win. And of course, Maurice was all disappointed, and The Miz was all upset that how could you punch me in the face and do this and that. And so I have to say, the Miz is definitely getting tiresome, but at least he's not in the Money in the Bank match, right? The third qualifying match was an interesting matchup. It was between Chris Jericho and the up and comer Apollo Crews. Sheamus attacked Apollo Crews before the match, kind of setting up a feud between the two of them before the qualifying match even happened. Crews pretty much held his own. He targeted Chris Jericho's back, which was all bandaged up because of the tax that he fell on the night before. And the biggest moment in this match was actually there was a huge like mishap or a huge mess up in the match when I think they were going for a cool spot where Jericho would go for the lion salt, where it's like a moonsault off of the middle rope. And then while he was in midair, I think Apollo Crews was supposed to kip up and like dodge it, but he screwed up the kip up, and Jericho landed on him in a really awkward way. Looked like they maybe knocked knees or something. It's a good thing they have knee pads on, but it still looked like it hurt. And I think Jericho might have been a little upset with him because the match ended pretty abruptly after that when Jericho hit Crews with a code breaker and ended the match. So that'll be interesting. It definitely looks like they're setting up a Sheamus Crews feud, which I'm kind of neutral on. I mean, I think it's good for Sheamus to put him in a match with someone because maybe it can make him look good. It's all right for Crews to be in a match with Sheamus, but I mean, if he wants his career to go anywhere, they're probably gonna have to put him in with a couple other people. With that being said, I am looking forward to seeing Jericho in the Money in the Bank. I don't know, like I said, how long he's going to be around, but I am treasuring every match he is in at this point because you never know when his last match is going to take place. So then we get announced that Big Cass is going to be taking on Bubba Ray. The Dudleys come out, and they're all kind of, agitated as they seem to be lately. Big Cass comes out, and he kind of hesitates walking down the ramp, and behind him comes out Enzo to a huge, uproar in the crowd, and everyone just loses their shit. Enzo cuts a tremendous promo. He seems just ecstatic to be back, super, even maybe a little bit too excited, and I think Cass has to tell him to calm down a little bit. They do their typical intro, and I think Enzo even during the match got a shot in on Devon when Devon was trying to cheat or distract the ref or something. I'm not sure what it was, but Cass goes over Bubba Ray pretty quickly, and they celebrate Enzo's return, and hopefully Enzo will be back and ready to wrestle. If not next week, I mean, at least by Money in the Bank, I would assume, because they had diagnosed him with a concussion, but I think 2 months or whatever it has been at that point will be enough. At least I hope. Um, and then we get to one of the biggest moments of the night. It was a little hard to watch, but it's. I mean, I get it. It's mostly, I think, storyline. We saw Charlotte come out with Ric Flair, of course, and the new, I guess, protege of hers. Uh, what's her name? The Dana Brooke, and basically they kind of talked about how Dana Brooke is like the Arn Anderson to Ric Flair, and she's kind of the enforcer behind Charlotte. And I'm liking it. It's a nice setup. It'll be interesting to see, who feuds with Charlotte next, and how much Dana will be involved in that. But that's a discussion for another day. Basically, Charlotte cuts a promo, and out of nowhere, kind of starts going off on Ric Flair, talking about how he was never there when she was a kid, and how she was always, like crying in her mother's, lap, and she had a rough childhood. Childhood is the thing she was trying to get across, because Flair was always on the road wrestling, and she exclaimed how she doesn't need him, how she's better than him, how she's no longer the daughter of Ric Flair, that he's now just the father of Charlotte Flair. Ric Flair, kind of got teary-eyed and walked out. It was definitely a tough scene to watch, whether it was real or not. You got to assume there's at least a little bit of truth behind it, because Flair probably was not home a whole lot, and it's understandable. It's the wrestling business, but it was definitely something rough to watch. But it looks like Ric Flair is going to be off TV for the foreseeable future. I don't know if that was because of the incident that happened at the airport the other week. You can look that up if you don't know what I'm talking about. Or if they just kind of ran out of storyline stuff for him. I don't know. But I'm gonna miss seeing Rick, and it'll be interesting to see where Charlotte goes with Dana Brooke. Then we moved on to the fourth qualifying match, which was Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler. Pretty straightforward. I'd say the coolest moment in the match was when Ziggler super kicks Ambrose. Ambrose does that thing where he rebounds off the middle rope, hit Ziggler with a nice big clothesline. He then went on to hit Dirty Deeds, and Ambrose wins the match cleanly. So he becomes the fourth member in the Money in the Bank ladder match, which takes place in a couple weeks. And so far, the Money in the Bank match is looking great. The main event was AJ Styles versus Kevin Owens, which was also a qualifying match. Before the match takes place, however, the club comes out, they talk to AJ Styles, and they pretty much, for lack of a better word, break up with him, and explain how they didn't like how AJ handled the match the night before, how he didn't accept their help, and basically they're no longer friends. During the match, it was pretty close back and forth, but Owens ends up hitting the pop-up powerbomb out of nowhere, and ends up winning the match to be the fifth person in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Two more to make 7 people, but I could be wrong on that. And it'll be interesting to see who that is. I'm assuming probably Baron Corbin will be in there, unless he has a feud like with Cena or someone else. Maybe they'll put Kalisto in there. I don't know. We're gonna have to find out, and we'll talk about that in the next week's Raw Talk. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching as we see Santino Marella going to WrestleMania. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button already, please do so. It will only give me more of an incentive to make stuff for you guys. I will be uploading some 2K16 videos tomorrow. I uploaded a Supercard video yesterday, an Uncharted 4 episode earlier today, and I'll be doing more of all of that as well, kind of off and on throughout the week. So I want to thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you guys real soon.